So, lost in the swamp of the Connor McDavid news, as well as some of the extra notes of prospects and young guys that made their NHL clubs, we had ourselves some drama. For the Montreal Canadiens and one of the best young players in the league. Folks, we made this video yesterday talking about Utah Mammoth forward Logan Cooley and Montreal Canadiens defenseman Lane Hutson and the contract drama surrounding these two guys. Logan Cooley rejected a super high dollar amount cap hit contract, and Lane Hutson kind of wants a reasonable one. Nevertheless, neither of these two guys have actually signed, either because the player rejected it or because the team didn't want to go there. And you have folks asking whether or not Kent Hughes, this guy, is making a mistake by not giving Lane Hutson what he wants. Well, I'm going to assume that by the time this video is public on YouTube, Lane does not have a contract yet. If he does, then okay, I'll wake up early, or at least I'll try to, and make a video about it. But I wanted to dive into this because when it comes to the negotiations with Lane Hutson, Kent Hughes went out there and tried to calm things down. In fact, this sit-down interview with TVA dives into Hughes' thoughts on a bunch of stuff, not just Hutson, but Reinbacher, and a bunch of other things too. So we're going to go out there and read this article. The link is going to be in the description below if you want to read this yourself. The ultimate question is proposed at the beginning of the piece. Should Montreal Canadiens fans be concerned that Lane Hutson has not signed a contract extension heading into 25-26? No, says Kent Hughes. As a reminder, Hutson will be completing the final year of his NHL ELC this season. He has been eligible for a contract extension since July 1st, 2025, but the two sides have not yet reached an agreement. Without going into details of the ongoing negotiations with Cortex, the agency that represents the young defender, Kent Hughes calmed things down during an exclusive interview with Renaud Lavoie of TVA Sports. "No, I am not worried," he said. "For all the contracts we've negotiated since we arrived here, the negotiations have been smooth. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it takes longer, but we shouldn't worry." He won't be a free agent, UFA at least, until 2031. Lane Hutson is not going anywhere. Now, if you had seen the video we made yesterday, you would have seen some of the commentary about the Hutson situation. Apparently, he was willing to go somewhere under $9.5 million AAV, but once Luke Hughes and Jackson Lacombe signed their deals, it totally changed the way the negotiations went. And also, the Montreal Canadiens were not willing to give Hutson something in the sub-$9.5 million territory either, which, upon seeing these contracts, does seem like a really big, foolish choice at this point. I mean, AFP Analytics went out there and said that Hutson is worth $10 million right now. So, the Lane Hutson situation, especially with Elliotte Friedman speaking out about it on 32 Thoughts yesterday, it does get a lot of people worried. It does spell some doom and gloom, and I do think there is reasonable ammo to start panicking if you are a Montreal Canadiens fan. This is what Hutson and the situation entails. Habs Digest went out there and posted this on Twitter. Friedman makes it clear that Hutson's camp and the Go Habs Go are close in terms of dollars, but the philosophy of how the deal is structured, such as RCA, deferred money, etc., is a big sticking point. He says someone will have to change their mind. So, in a way, seems like the Hughes party and the Hutson party cannot agree on certain ideals, and it puts us all in a very interesting spot. In fact, Friedman said that the negotiation compares to Kirill Kaprizov. It got emotional, and everyone needs a time out. With that in mind, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to whether or not Kent Hughes is really fumbling the bag here. Again, if Hughes and Hutson agreed to a deal before the time this video was public on YouTube, then I apologize profusely. But there still are a number of other things that Hughes talks about that's written about in this article, so I do actually feel like it's worthy enough to go out there and talk. Here is what the piece and Kent Hughes have to say about patience with David Reinbacher. The Montreal Canadiens GM struck a similar note when discussing David Reinbacher's injury history, as he was sidelined for a second straight training camp. But this time the injury is not as alarming. If he had injured his knee again or suffered a dislocated shoulder or a concussion, it would be more worrying. He was unlucky. It was a shot to the hand. If it had been Arber Xhekaj's hand or anybody else, it would have been the same result. The important thing for the Canadiens is that Reinbacher one day becomes a great defenseman in the NHL, and not necessarily at the age of 21. We didn't draft Reinbacher to be the best defenseman at 21. We drafted him to be the best defenseman for years with the Canadiens. He has a lot of time ahead of him. The other issue is that of second-line center for the Habs, a position that will likely be filled by Kirby Dach, who has moved up his return schedule. Do Dach's health and Oliver Kapanen's emergence allow Hughes to sleep better at night? Because, Oliver Kapanen made the team, if you had missed out on that. I wouldn't say I'm more reassured, Kent Hughes said, because I was already more optimistic than the others. Dach has to prove himself during the regular season, and over 82 games. However, several indicators are also in the green. Newhook had a very good camp. Kapanen has matured. Joe Veleno has shown a willingness to add dimensions to his game, the GM listed. Now, let's just go out there and hope, knock on wood, nothing on the contrary happens, that Kirby Dach actually does play 82 games on the season. I would love to see him play 82 games. It's kind of unfortunate that that's being seen as the floor, I would say, but still, 82 games for Kirby Dach. If he's able to do that, then I will be ecstatic. Then there are some other notes here at the bottom in bulk. This is what Kent Hughes said on the pressure on the shoulders of the two new acquisitions, Noah Dobson and Zach Bolduc. We play a different style than the New York Islanders. That will require an adjustment for Noah, and for Zachary as well. Noah comes with a big contract and big expectations in a market that demands a lot. For Zach, even though it's fun to be a Quebec player with the Habs, it also brings a little more pressure. We're going to do everything we can to be patient and give them as much support as possible. This is what Kent Hughes spoke about in regards to toughness and lessons learned from the first-round series against the Capitals last season. The Caps emphasized that against us, our series was more physical than most, and you learn from those experiences in the National Hockey League. A player's competitiveness remains more than anything else. The Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 2011 with the toughest team in the NHL. There was no debate. But that doesn't change Brendan Gallagher's approach on the ice. Mentality is important. Kent, what the hell are you doing? Why do you have to bring up the 2011 Bruins? You want to talk about tough teams? Talk about the Panthers from last season. Gosh, why you're going out there and reopening old wounds for this primary Vancouver Canucks fan who was sad when Vancouver lost Game 7 against Boston. Tim Thomas was wearing illegal pads. Okay, I gotta stop talking about 2011. But Kent, based off of this interview, doesn't seem all too pessimistic. He seems quite optimistic that Lane Hutson will sign at some point. He's not worried. He's going out there and preaching patience for David Reinbacher, and he's expressing his very positive expectations for Kirby Dach, Zach Bolduc, Noah Dobson, and others. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you respond to all of these thoughts as proclaimed by Kent Hughes? Do you also agree that the Lane Hutson situation isn't that big of a deal? If he has a contract by the time this video is uploaded, then I apologize again, but let's get some conversation going in the comments now, shall we? If you enjoyed this video, the like button is down there below. If you did not, then hey, you can click that dislike button. It also helps out. Comments help out with the algorithm tremendously, so I'd appreciate it if you got involved in the conversation. This article will be linked in the description if you want to go out there and read it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.